bring in our next guest, former pro and the coach to so many top players of the past, most notably many years with Genie Bouchard, part of that magical 2014 season where Genie made 2 semifinals and, of course, the Wimbledon final that summer. Let's say hello to Nick Saviano. We've had Nick on before. There he is. Coach Nick, it's good to see you, Nick. I know you know everyone up here.
Hey, everybody.
Jeff, Nick, Nosey,
it's like
and Jeanie.
reminiscing here when I take a look at the screen. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, everyone's good.
What's up, Nick?
How are you? Oh my gosh, I have like a million questions for you, but first, I guess, would just be how are you doing? How is the academy doing? How is your family in South Florida? How is everything going?
Everything's great. You know, first of all, family's in great health. 8 beautiful grandchildren.
Wow.
3 daughters are all married. You know, my wife is good. The academy's going well. I'm healthy. I love what I'm doing. So, you know what? I'm blessed, and I couldn't be more excited, you know, on a daily basis. So can't complain about anything, really.
Nick, we were so excited to have Jeanie on the desk with us and for you to agree to come on the show. I remember when I was 12 years old and you were the head national coach, and I was always so excited when I would get something in the mail from Nick Saviano saying I was coming to a USTA national camp in Key Biscayne. I never forget those moments. But I wanted to ask you about Jeanie, and I wanted to ask you about what kind of got you into working with her and what kind of impressed you about her at such a young age to become such a great champion?
Well, it's interesting. First of all, and I'm not saying this because she's there, Jeanie was about as good a student as you could ask for in terms of, you know, would go work on what you say you'd ask her to do. She was phenomenal and actually a great joy in my tennis life, if you know what I mean, and life in general. So it was a pleasure and a privilege working with her. And I feel that way when you're working with young people. If you don't look at it from the standpoint that it is a privilege to work with young people and a sacred trust, not only to that young person, but also to their parents, that they're the ones who entrust you with their precious child. So I met Jeanie through her mother, and actually through Laura Robson's mother when I was working with Laura Robson, and that was at the Eddie Herr. And it was a traumatic time. She had just lost first round at the 12 and unders. So, you know,
tough time.
I told you, junior success doesn't matter.
We know what a transitional time that is. You know? So anyway, you know, shortly thereafter, she joined us at the academy.
Awesome.
And
wow.
You know, she worked incredibly hard and persevered, and it started a long journey. And you know, I spent a lot of years with Jeanie, and people say, well, you developed Jeanie. No, I don't look that I developed any one player. There's too many people that are involved in it, not the least parents, other coaches, physical trainers. So I like to feel like I was an important part of her journey, and you know, for a certain amount of time, but I really feel blessed to have had that opportunity.
Nick, you're one of the pillars, obviously, of the sport. You've seen the game from so many different angles. I've known you forever. You've coached so many great players. I just wonder, from your perspective, how have you seen the game change at all, if it's changed at all in your eyes, because you see it from such a unique perspective?
It's changed enormously in some respects, but the certain things that don't change, that you have great champions have certain characteristics. They're fundamental principles of life success that transfer over into all sports. So the great champions' mindsets haven't really changed that much. I will tell you, we were very blessed to see the big 3, and this is not me just talking about men's tennis, but Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, because similar to what Lendl did generations ago, where he set a new standard for physical training and all of that other stuff, these 3 were the personification of a relentless pursuit of growth. And they never stopped pushing themselves. They never stopped trying to improve. They never stopped growing. It wasn't about getting rich. It wasn't about getting famous. It wasn't about just becoming #1 in the world. It wasn't about just winning a Grand Slam. It was a relentless pursuit of being everything they could be. And what makes the great champions, from my perspective, so unique is they're not afraid to put their heart, their soul into it, to be vulnerable and to lay it on the line, to fall on their face, pick themselves back up, and relentlessly go forward. And so, from a tactical and game standpoint, bigger, stronger, better athletes, better technology. The tactics have changed where we're basically gravitating to high percentage aggressive tennis. You can't make a lot of unforced errors, and you've got to be aggressive when you get the opportunity. Serving is changed, where it's not so much just bigger serving. I think Djokovic and Federer clearly illustrated it's about not only power, but doesn't have to be excessive, but location, disguise, consistency, variety, and really from a tactical standpoint, high percentage aggressive tennis.
See, how could you not be motivated after
I mean, I'm ready to go play right now.
I'm ready. Give me that racket. Give me that racket.
Just so inspiring, and he's always just known for, a Nick speech was just a beautiful thing to listen to. Following that a little bit, I just want to hear your thoughts on Sabalenka, who's obviously so dominant right now. What do you think her best quality is? We know she obviously has her huge shots, but her mental resilience and consistency are also impressive.
Well, yes. Interestingly, years ago, I was asked to work with Svetlana for a short period of time. And I didn't have much time, so I promised them I'd go max 4 weeks. So I trained her for 2 weeks, and it went really well. And then I went with her to China for a couple weeks, and she lost to one gal named Sabalenka. And she was a little annoyed. It was 3 sets. And I said, look, I told her agent and whatever, I said, this gal's going to win at least 5 Grand Slams. Wow. And now a few weeks later, Svitolina won the World WTA Championships. I wasn't with her, but she won that in Singapore. So I saw Sabalenka for the first time there. I said, wow, this girl is good. What has really impressed me is obviously she's athletic and power and whatever, but she has that relentless growth characteristic. Remember, she was struggling with her serve. She didn't sit pat. She went out, got it fixed, improved that. She continues to improve every aspect of her game. She used to get incredibly tight where it was debilitating and she'd drop off. Well, she's improved that as well. So to me, she's showing the characteristics of greatness, of somebody trying to be a great player. I don't feel she's quite on the level of, say, a Serena or, the big three, but she's going to go down as one of the all-time greats, at least winning, in my opinion, 5, 6, 7 Grand Slams at least. So she's pretty special.
Kukulo, the opportunity here to go up a double break. You had the pleasure of coaching both Jeanie and Sloane Stephens, and we've had the pleasure of working with both Jeanie and Sloane. In fact, Sloane was here just a couple weeks ago. If I told you that one of them craved more printouts, study the game, and pen and paper, and then the other was a little more, wanted to be surprised and just wing it and kind of figure it out as you go, which one do you think was which for the TV?
Well, clearly, Sloane didn't like too much information.
They're both natural.
So,
Clearly.
I'll just tell you, I often joke with the kids because I explain to parents sometimes that every player is different. And if you're going to coach a lot of different players, and I often am on the court, even now, with somebody who's 9 or 10 years old, maybe somebody is a highly ranked junior, then I switch to somebody who's a world-class prospect, and then I'm switching to a male and female. You have to understand everybody learns differently, has a different on-court personality. And if you're going to be any good as a coach, you have to realize that it's not about you and your information. I mean, that's fine. it's not about how smart you are. It's getting the person that you're working with to not only understand, and all you guys understand this, is that when you work with great champions, they have got a very strong will. And I don't mean that in the pejorative. They're really tough mentally. And so it's important for you to get them to buy into what they're working on. And then once you do that, they'll run through a brick wall. So with Jeanie, Jeanie liked to get a lot of feedback. She wanted feedback after when she'd hit 4 or 5 balls. If I didn't say anything, she'd always turn around and say, well, you know? and then Sloane would be, if I said more than 3 or 4 things in an hour, that would be enough. So, and then, you know, I've had other things. I remember I go back all the way back to, you know, during Mark Noel's day, when somebody like, I was speaking with Jim Curry when he was at the Italian juniors, and I said, you really need to work on your volleys. And he said, why? And so I'd have to explain to him why, and then I'd have to, I'd have to get him to buy into it. Now, Jim, as you all know, would work as hard as anybody, but he had to know and believe in what he was working on. So that was fine, and I learned a lot there. And I'll tell you one funny story. You'll get a kick out of this. I'm sitting in the stands, and this is funny. I'm sitting in the stands, and I'm at La Petitas.
Yep.
The top 14 and under tournament in the world. Best players play there. And I've got this tall young gal out on the court, and I think I'm being a very conscientious coach because I got this new Tandy computer. And so I'm typing notes, and I look at this tall gal, and she's waving at me on the court and waving like, no, like this. And I didn't know what you meant. I finally realized she didn't like me typing. And you know what that was? Lindsay Davenport.
Oh, wow. LD.
That's
LD.
amazing. LD.
She was,
That's
she
too
was
good.
13 years old. So all these things, it's humbling, but you learn that it really isn't about you. It's about the player, and you're there to facilitate and provide and guidance. The moment it gets to be about you as a coach, then you're in the wrong business.
Nick, that's a great segue. You've obviously developed so many players, especially from the junior level. We've talked up here on the panel a lot about expectations for juniors, for parents. I just wonder how you help navigate those treacherous waters, because obviously there's so much expectation, not just by the kids, but also by their parents. But also it's so important in tennis, as you know better than anyone, it's a process, right? It's about developing skills and all of that, all of those types of things.
Well, first of all, I've never had a problem with a parent.
Wow. Honestly?
No, I'm joking.
Honestly, I was like, what?
Like, are we doing,
I was
are
like,
we
that
talking
is not,
tennis? Or-
that is not true.
I realize all you were being so polite because you didn't want to say anything. But no, obviously, look, the parents, this is the way I look at it. The parents are the greatest attribute for you to accomplish what you want, and they're the greatest challenge. And the challenge for a coach is to create a team, no matter whether they're more involved, less involved, and realize that the parents are the most influential people in the children's life when they're young. And that slowly changes, but it's still, they have to be on board. And if they're not, you got a problem. So, you know, as the years have gone by and I've had a bit of success here and there as a coach, you know, parents will be a little more patient with you. But what I try to do is be proactive and get out in front and explain to them in advance what the process is and what will transpire. And so given that, you help allay the the tensions and anxieties. But you know, you have to be empathetic. And you know, I was talking to some of my coaches the other day. So how do you put up with the parents? Believe it or not, I often, you know, people will come into my office and their child is 12 or 9 or 10, and they say, Nick, no, you don't understand how serious my child is and what's going on. And so you start listening, and they're motivated. They want to be number one in the world by themselves. It's not me. And you know, you go through that conversation about 1,000 times, and you try to be patient and say, okay, but you've got to empathize with them. This is their precious child. They are investing a lot. And if you aren't willing to do that, and you pull the arrogant routine of, you know what, I know what I'm doing, just stay out of my way, I just don't think you're going to be successful very often. So that's what I try to do, and then also create a pathway for them that just helps them understand the hard work that needs to be done, and that it is in fact a process.
Yeah, Nick, big win there for Jessica Pegula. I know Mark Knowles sitting
Nice
right
volley
here.
to get
is
it
pretty
what
pumped
happened?
up there.
Oh,
Great volley. I was looking at
notice.
Mark's face. He had kind of a smile there. Big win for Mark Knowles. But Nick, I kind of wanted to ask you, and you've been tagging along with it kind of throughout this. You know, now being a coach myself, I'd like to learn from coaches like you and Mark Knowles. What would you say is your core kind of coaching philosophy? And also, how do you balance the technical along with the mental and emotional aspect for these young players that you're developing?
Well, first and foremost is there are fundamental principles of life success which need to be incorporated in everything you do. And you know, that sounds not like a cliche and trite, but I'll give you a classic example. You know, one of the things when you watch a truly great ball striker, particularly on the men's side, and I say that because on the men's side, they deal with so much pace that if their head position isn't correct when they're exploding into the ball, they're going to be inconsistent. And if you know, when you watch Federer and Alcaraz and you know, these guys, Sinner, they keep their head still slightly after the hit, and you say, okay, well, how the heck does that have? What does that have to do with staying with life principles? And when you stay here on the hit, and you're there absorbed in the process of executing that shot, you have to let go of the outcome. You can't quickly look up, you know, in a flash to see where the ball's going. That puts you in the future. So the great ones stay right there for that split second, watching the ball and trusting in the process, staying in the moment and letting go of the outcome, which they're not going to guarantee. So that process of letting go of the outcome can be explained in the micro when you're competing, on the court, off the court. We want the kids to focus in on what they can control and let go of the things they can't. And when you're striking the ball and you're in the moment of striking the ball, you can't at that point worry about your opponent. It's about you executing. So I try to really incorporate these principles at all levels. And the emphasis is on biomechanically, you have to be sound, but every ball struck on a court has to have a tactical objective. They have to understand what they're doing and why. So, you know, I always like to incorporate that in when I'm drilling or otherwise. There's no mindless hitting. You can obviously warm up and rally and get into rhythm and all of that, and that's nice. But once you start the hardcore training, there is a purpose behind each shot. And with that, the technique needs to facilitate your ability to play at fast speeds, to be able to stay in the moment, and to execute the appropriate tactics and strategies in which you want. And just going one step further, my personal feeling is that that most of the players, including many world-class players that I see, do not do a great job of this. And there is a distinct difference, in my opinion. I remember that moment, very special, with Jeanie.
I was down 4-love in the third.
She was down. Wow. She was down 4-1 in the third,
4-1,
and a break to go down 5-1, and she ran out wide, hit a backhand down the line, on the line for a winner. Came back, won that match, then killed the girl from Germany before getting to the semis. But anyway, I digress. So, so the thing is, a lot of the top players you see, there are some subtle holes or deficiencies. When I look at this kid, Fonseca, I don't see the holes. Mm-hmm. When I look at the guy, who's the kid? Menzik. Another one, they said, well, his forehand's going to be just fine. He's got fundamentals down. He may have improved it. I just saw it. So I see future Grand Slams there. The thing is, I see a potential Grand Slam for Mark Knowles' gal. Nice. There. I hope she continues to grow in her self-confidence and belief, because she's a superb ball striker, does a lot of things really, really well. So I'm pulling for you on that, Mark.
Thanks,
go
Nick.
ahead.
Thanks, appreciate it.
I think we had one video, producer Haston. I remember he sent something to Chiz and I yesterday of you coaching Genie Bouchard in a match. And she, as players, sometimes we have those kind of tense moments where we're sitting on the changeover. You were able to come out and speak to her and kind of tell her, hey, let's enjoy this moment. Let's enjoy where we are. And I think that helped her a lot. We were watching the video yesterday, Chiz and I. And so you talk about just being more in the moment.
Let's listen to it. We got it.
Here it is right here.
Yeah.
I look mad.
Here you go.
Yeah, she was not in a good frame of mind.
I think we're going to hear it.
Any of that, okay? Just go out, try to enjoy yourself a little bit more. Just hit your shots. Forget you're going to win, you're going to lose. Life's going to go on either way. Do you understand? But the most important thing, and I'm telling you this, is that you have to enjoy yourself out here. You got to love being out here. This is not a burden. So go, relax, you're going to win, you're going to lose, hit your shots, play with joy, play with passion, run for the ball, and let it go. Because I can assure you, you're not going to win doing it this way. So the thing is, here are a couple things. Get up after your serve and snap it off. On the returns, nice and relaxed, rip them back towards the middle, all right? And when you hit a ball to a forehand, the next one, you can change it up, go to the backhand.
That's good TV right there, guys.
Wow, that's impressive, Nick. Wow.
I'm inspired.
Remember that? So what was
that
going
was
on?
a look from Jeanie, by the way. I think I would have ran away.
Yeah. What was going on there?
I could have a little intense, sassy look. Yeah, I mean, it's a message he, would always express so much to me. And hearing him talk now brings me back to being 12 years old and everywhere in between until today. About it's a blessing to be able to play tennis, and it's not a burden. And in that moment, in that match, I was clearly, seeing it as such a heavy thing, like as if I'm going to war. Yeah. And Nick would often say, there are people in the world with real tough jobs and real problems and things like that. And it just helps so much to put that in perspective.
Yeah, look, if there's one thing we have to realize is we're blessed, period. The opportunity to do what we do, whether it's on Tennis Channel, coaching, tennis. I mean, yeah, there's problems. There's a lot of things. But man, we got food on the table. We have opportunity to grow. And when somebody comes to you and they're playing tennis, they get on that tennis court. It's got to be about a joyous passion for what they're doing. You've got to get them to understand this is about being everything you can be, and no one can ever stop you from doing that. And if you approach it that way and you say, I'm going to go out, I might lose, I might win, but I'm going to give it everything I have and always give myself the best chance to win. And that sounds like a cliche, but it's not. the key, when you take any great athlete in any sport, they will tell you, some may not even realize they're doing it, but they have the ability to say, I know I want to win. I would love to win. Now I'm going to put that in my pocket or in my bag, and I'm going to zip it up. And my total focus is going to be on giving myself the best chance to win and focus on everything I can control. And no matter how good that opponent is, they can't keep me from doing this. And so when an athlete grabs that, they stay in the process. They get away from trying to guarantee the outcome, which causes the stress and anxiety. And they're the ones that will nail that jump shot, or they'll hit that winner backhand down the line. The ones that start worrying about trying to guarantee that which they cannot guarantee, which is in fact the outcome, are the ones that start to feel the burden, the stress, the anxiety, and they limit themselves. So that, going back to what, Nick, you were asking me, that is our responsibility in coaching. That's what we need to be teaching them. That's a fundamental principle of life success. And our obligation is to teach them the tennis and use this as a vehicle to help them, so that my hope, my biggest dream, and I'm not saying this because Jeannie's there, or whether it be Sloan, or if Jim Courier ever thought back on some of the things I said, or whoever it might be, Bob Bryan, I see periodically, his son occasionally comes out to our academy. You've got to I want them to see that these are principles for life. And if we're doing that, then we're doing something really meaningful.
Nick, you always bring it. Such a treat for our fans at home, and such a treat to kind of share the moment here with you guys. We always appreciate you coming on. We hope to catch up again soon. Appreciate
It's my pleasure. Keep up the great work. I love Tennis Channel, love what you guys do. And as I said, I just feel privileged to be part of this. And Jeanie, always special seeing you. Take care.
Always great seeing you. Thank you so much for coming on,
All
Nick.
right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Nick. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.